Hello, my lovely art nerds. I apologize for any background noise. It is not particularly quiet here today. This is the 14th illustration in my Not Your Basic Witch series, and it has been a while. I apologize. It's been a little bit busy, a little bit chaotic. I've been sick with a couple of different things. It's been a long month. But we're here with this, and I really like it, so I hope you like it too. The prompt for this was originally like meditating with a familiar, and I do have a cat there. There is what could potentially be a familiar. But this piece turned out to be so much more than I was anticipating it becoming, and that is in whole due to the mistakes that I made. So let's introduce you to those mistakes. I'm doing them right now. So originally normally when I do these illustrations, I cover the entire page in water and I add little bits of detail of color to everything. And I let it get really soft and feather out. But the point is that there's very little, if any, white spots on my paper. I didn't do that this time. And pretty much as soon as I started doing the bed on the side of her to the right, I realized, oh crap, I didn't do this thing. And unfortunately, even though those are really light colors, strictly speaking, the colors that I have already put down on the page are too intense for me to just wash right over and not expect bleeding. I do let a lot of bleeding happen between my colors anyway. I'm not particularly strict with my lines and coloring in them. But this mistake was a little bit difficult to deal with, which is why there's suddenly a lot of little blue lines all over my piece, because that's all my masking fluid in order to kind of alleviate this issue. So I knew that I was going to have something really colorful on the wall behind her, and I wasn't really sure what it was going to be. So I took the dark indigo that I have in my little set for this series. I have a limited palette. It's part of the challenge, aside from doing 30 illustrations. If you're not watching or not familiar with these, I made a little palette. It's only got 5 colors in it. So I decided that since that was as close to a gray, a neutral, that I had, I would just paint the bottom, paint her carpet, this as close to black, basically, as I was going to get, this dark gray. And I let it do the cauliflower kind of effect where it's not even, because I didn't want it to be super soft. I wanted it to be a little chaotic. I think that meditation itself, as a practice, not just drawing somebody in a cute pose, is really relaxing, but it helps you shut off all of the other chaotic things in your life and helps you gain some perspective and balance, which is why I tried to make her room look as sort of messy and not put together as possible. I'm just realizing how small those little slipper thingies are, and her feet would not fit in them. All right, anyway, I'm just realizing this. So I like the idea that she's at peace because she's not looking at any of this crazy shit all around her, messy clothes falling out of the drawers and the unmade bed and all of this. But still chill. So the second thing that came about from not doing a base layer of soft colors was that I wasn't really sure what color I was going to put on the background on her wall. And I started with the blue, which was really dark. And then I started trying to blend it out. And what wound up happening was I added pinks, and that made purples. And it made this really weird splotchy effect. And I was not happy with it. And then I immediately thought, this kind of looks like a galaxy. Let's make her wall into a galaxy. Which was fun to do and turns out really nicely, I think. But also was just a different layer of the whole meditation theme of breathing exercises and visualization, kind of taking you out of wherever your uncomfortable places are, or just your general life, and sort of transporting you to a place where you can have perspective and you can gain some clarity and be calm and like prepare yourself to go back to all of the chaos. I really like how that accident and just my forgetting to do soft layers beforehand left me with this weird outcome that turned into a really cool galaxy. I'm not particularly gifted or knowledgeable of making galaxies with watercolor. I have tried it before in the past and I can never make it look decent. So there was a lot of experimenting that went into that background, that wall, and I learned a couple of things that I'll use in the future. But I'm really happy with this. It kind of looks like her bedroom was just moved into a galaxy. It doesn't look like it's a wall. There's really not perspective there that makes it look like a wall, but regardless. I have to say that one of the things that I have not failed thus far, but that I've been having a difficult time doing with my characters in these illustrations is making their backgrounds more complicated than just a wall. There are only a few of this now 14 that I have done where it looks like there's depth to their space. Even trying to add some shading and perspective, I'm just not good at it, especially inside. Haven't mastered that yet. The other thing is that right now I'm adding sort of like gray shadows to where if you were like opening up her drawers and all of this stuff is coming out, that there should be some darkness, like shadow, in the drawers. And when I was sketching, I clearly knew what I wanted, but when I went to actually paint it with watercolor, it did not come out the way that I was intending it to in my mind. And I think that specifically is something that I should practice. Like, I should get a reference photo and practice the reference photo. Like, take a picture of this thing and practice it. I think reference photos are very helpful in that regard. If you say, like, I don't know how to draw this very specific thing in this very specific set of circumstances, find something that is a picture of that or a video of that you can sit down and compare and then practice. I think I need to do that with shadows in furniture, and also to provide different kinds of backgrounds. Like, every background that I've done for this series has had like a set of drawers or a bookcase, something like that, because it's very easy to add, and it's better than having a character just sitting in an empty room or standing in an empty room. But at the same time, I feel like I'm missing some character to their lives. Like, this isn't just a person on a page. I want it to be a person in their day-to-day like life. I'm certainly much better than I was at the beginning of this challenge when I started last month, but I still have a long way to go. So right now I'm adding all of the salt to my wet kind of galaxy areas, and I wound up doing this a couple of times. Before this, I had actually done it with a little bit of sea salt, but it was very fine powder sea salt, and it did not have this speckling effect that I wanted, so I actually went and got some table salt and put that on. And it wasn't quite working out the same way that I've used it in the past. So I started taking my brush and getting lots of like watercolor pigment on it and then dabbing that onto the sections of salt, and it would kind of feather out. And it made a really pretty splotched kind of effect. I wound up being really happy with, and I want to experiment with that more in future pieces. I don't think that any of the other challenges or like prompts have anything to do with space in them, which is kind of a pity because I never really touched on astral projection, although I suppose you could say that she's doing astral projection. She's kind of transporting herself into space. It's not what I would do if I was gonna practice some astral projection, but you know, to each their own. There's space to change. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Like, there's room for interpretation, I guess, is what I'm thinking of. Yeah. So I started adding in some like stars and dots and things, just to make it more space like, since the texture of the salt is really subtle. You really have to have it in person or be very close to it to get a sense of its texture. So I added a lot of white dots and bits with Uniball Signo white gel pen, lovingly gifted to me by a good friend of mine. And I'm just going over some of my lines on her to make her pop out from the background a little bit more. I'm not really happy with how I did this. One of the things that I learned that I really liked in the last couple of illustrations has been very thin, simple lines, but I'm having trouble keeping the character from completely fading out. Like, having these super thin lines is really nice when it's just the lines, but then adding the color on it, I feel like I'm losing the lines and losing some of the depth of the character. So I added to her to try and make her stand out a little bit more from the background, and it did help. It's not exactly the effect that I want to do like in the future, but it helped. That was fine, whatever. Also, how the heck do you draw people sitting down in like a cross-legged position? Because the way that it looks just does not look humanly possible. Like, I looked at reference photos. I practiced with reference photos, and it still always looks like jacked up. Whatever. Anyway, just a thought. Little close up of my salty sky and my pretty lady. I really like how I did her face. I changed it a lot from how I've been doing faces. It's more what I do when I'm working with pencil. I don't normally try and do it with pen. But, yeah. I'm really happy with this piece, you guys. I wasn't intending there to be a galaxy wall, but it happened. I wasn't necessarily sure how vibrant I was going to be able to be, but I got it. It worked. Mostly. I made some mistakes. Some things were done wrong, but they were really fun. Sorry for all the shaky camera. Yeah. I really had a good time making this illustration. I hope that you guys did too. Let me know down in the comments if you liked it, if you like how these illustration series in general is going, if you are gonna do any of these prompts on your own, or if you even want to. If you've done any prompt series like this in the past and you have any advice for me or for your fellow commenters, let them know down below. And I will see you next time. Hopefully it will not take me as long to get to number 15 in the series, but, you know, if it happens, I apologize in advance. Okay? Bye, art nerds. You're lovely. Thank you for watching. Bye.